Good evening and welcome, everybody. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Colleen and I'm the current president of the SMEA, and it is my great pleasure to have all of you with us this evening in the room. Tonight's event is actually done jointly with the South Yorkshire Industrial History Society, whose charitable objectives are to promote, encourage and investigate historical and archaeological evidence of the trades which have been carried out in South Yorkshire. And that's definitely going to resonate with the steel industry that Viktor's going to present us with this evening. So I'm going to jump on to tonight's lecture then. Viktor has been traveling the world since 2006, documenting the heavy industrial sites such as ironworks, steelworks, rolling mills, forges, foundries, and coke plants. The aim of Viktor's photography is to objectively document the technological processes connected with steelmaking and shaping. Many of the people in the room tonight will be well aware that the steel industry is shrinking. A push for greener technology and advancements in the production technologies in the last few years have changed the world beyond recognition. The iconic blast furnaces and other heavy industrial sites are shutting down and starting to disappear. Viktor says that it's possible that our generation will be one of the last to experience the fascinating world of dark, rumbling factories. And I'm excited to see the images that have been captured by Viktor and to learn a little bit more about the sites that you visited around the world. Many of you will have noticed that Viktor isn't able to join us tonight in Sheffield, but he's very kindly agreed to present the Barraclough lecture, The Beauty of Steel Project, the title of which is The Beauty of Steel Project, with us on Zoom tonight. The Barraclough lecture, for those of you who aren't aware, is actually a very interesting linked to history. And before we had the Bessemer and Siemens stepping into the steel world, we actually didn't document our steel manufacturing processes very well. And it was Barraclough who wrote his thesis in 1981, documenting the history and the processes of our steelworks. And I think Viktor's snapshots into the steel industry are another way that would beautifully mirror Barraclough's thesis. And I'm very, very excited to see what you're going to present with us this evening. So if you could all welcome me in joining Viktor to the SMEA Barraclough Memorial Lecture.
Good evening. Excuse me, you can still hear that I'm not really okay. I'm terribly sorry for not being there with you in present. I caught some damn tonsillitis, which really changed my plans completely. So good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for invitation. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope you will enjoy my humble presentation. So let's start it. I hope you can see the presentation just behind me. So if something happens, just give me a sign and we will try to fix this. So, and here we go. So basically that's me in short, that's my diagnosis. The problem is whenever I see a steel mill, I got completely crazy. This is something what is happening me since, let's say, 12 years old, but we will come back to it very shortly. It all happened with my grandfather, that's him, in Ostrava. He was born in Ostrava. That's one of the oldest industrial towns in my country. And when he grew up, he moved to Prague. So basically, his father was a miner and his uncle was some economical director of local iron works of Vítkovice, as you probably heard the name already. And here I am. So when I was around 10 or 11, my parents bring me to one working mine. That was an ore mine situated in the ore mountains in the northern part of my country. And they wanted to show me how terrible the heavy industry and coal mining is, or iron mining is. However, as you can see from my face, that didn't really meet with their expectations, because I was completely blown away by the beautifulness of underground facilities and coal and iron processing. And that's me in my natural habitat, something like 25 years later. I have started this project in 2008, And since that time, I'm traveling all around the world and documenting the beauty of iron and steel making. I'm not sponsored by anybody. I'm just covering all the expenses by myself because I love the steel. I can't help myself. And it all started when I was, let's say, on high school, and I have seen the horizon started to change. There were no more blast furnaces where I lived. They started to disappear, so that the headstocks of mines and chimneys, that all started to change. So I purchased my first camera and start to document what has left. And when I finished everything in my country, I moved to Slovakia, Poland, Germany, and now I'm, let's say, doing this worldwide. So this is my Google Map application, and you can see plenty of dots. So the red dots are foundries, rolling mills, and forges. The green dots are mines. The yellow dots are coke plants, and orange dots are integrated plants with everything in it. There are also the black dots, which are for, let's say, lime kilns or ropeways or some kind of interesting industrial relic around. And this map is very useful for me because whenever my wife or my family would like to go, let's see, I don't know, for example, to Egypt, to have some nice vacation by the sea, so I can see where exactly I should go. Oh, here we go. We have one integrated mill here and one foundry, so this location is suitable, so that, let's say, some other parts of Italy. Yeah, so I have very understanding wife, as you can imagine. But let's start with the pictures. So this presentation will bring us from the United States, or let's say from overseas to Europe, and through Russia to Australia. I will try to be as fast as possible because I don't want to take your time too much. I know that this is a very special topic and not everybody may find passion in it. So in case you will be traveling to the United States, just please avoid these wastelands where it's literally nothing, just some grain fields and nothing. Just focus on this beautiful triangle. That's so-called the Rust Belt, which was the manufacturing belt in the past. But during the decay and decline of the steel industry in the United States, the manufacturing belt turned into the Rust Belt. However, we can still find plenty of steel mills there. One of them is in Chicago, that's Indiana Harbor, and their blast furnace number 7, which is today the largest blast furnace in Northern Hemisphere. This is also the last one which is active in Indiana Harbor, and not sure how long they are planning to run it because the whole site owned by Cleveland Cliffs is turning into green technologies recently. That's the interior, the cast house with 4 tap holes. And if you move from Indiana Harbor a little bit to the east, you will end in Burns Harbor. And Burns Harbor is the last integrated plant which was ever built in the United States. That was in 1963, and this is it. So they have 2 blast furnaces, coke plant and a steel mill. And the blast furnaces are what we can see on the picture. Here's another nice thing which is happening to me more and more often, and that's the crossover with artists from all around the world. They are just texting me or messaging me and asking for permission if they can use my humble pictures for their artwork. Usually I'm not against, and plenty of oil on canvases, graphics, sculptures, and whatever were made after my photographs. Today I have counted over 195 artworks from all around the world. This is, for example, Nicolas Martin from Belgium, and he's a painter focused on murals. So that's after my picture from Burns Harbor. Yeah, here we have one photograph from inside the steel mill in Burns Harbor and their 350 tons converter vessel. Another beautiful mill in United States is Cleveland, currently owned by the Cleveland Cliffs. They have 2 blast furnaces and the hot strip mill. That's it. That's their workhorse. That's one of the most profitable hot strip mills in the United States, as I was told. Here we are in Pennsylvania, and the metropolis of Pennsylvania is the Pittsburgh. And in Pittsburgh was this lovely, huge plant called the Carey Furnaces, the Homestead Works. And that plant was shut down in 80s, and this is what has left until today. The 2 blast furnaces of Carey. Here we are. They are listed as a technical monument and accessible for public. Very nice feature. Also one of the oldest blast furnaces constructed in the United States and preserved. These are from 1912. This is my favorite mill in the United States. That's called the Weirton in West Virginia. This is how this mill looked back in the 40s. And one important movie, Oscar-winning movie, was shooted there. I'm not sure if you can recognize it from this picture, but it's the Deer Hunter with Robert De Niro. And this is how the blast furnace site looked back in 2015. If you come here these days, you won't find nothing. The whole site was completely demolished in 2019. This is exactly the street where Robert De Niro was driving his Cadillac. And today, the blast furnaces are gone. Even the Ferguson tire service is gone. Completely wiped out landscape. Another and the last mill I will show you from the United States is the Franklin Rolling Mill. That's in Franklin, Pennsylvania, and that's one of the oldest running mills in the United States. They are doing the re-rolling and making rods and beams from it. This is it, and that's the rolling train from 1908. This is still active, and their business is running extremely well because they are buying old rails, splitting them in 2 and re-rolling them to a new product. All right, let's move to Brazil. Brazil, after my last trip last June, turned out to be my most favorite country in the world. Well, right after the UK, of course, but Brazil is really spectacular. There is only one problem, and that is that nobody really understands English. So if you want to explain something or communicate in English, it usually ends like this. So Google Translator or any other translator server gadget is very, very needed. But let's start our short Brazilian journey in Rio de Janeiro region. This is Barra-Mansa, and Barra-Mansa is a place where ArcelorMittal is having their electric steel mill and a rolling mill. These lovely hills are full of snakes, by the way. So when I was there, I took this picture on the very first evening of my stay in Brazil. I was running there in shorts. Nobody told me that there could be something like a poisonous snake, but yeah, luckily I made it in. And next day they told me and warned me that I should really not do this anymore. This is the inside. The steel plant is shut down at the moment, but the rolling mill is still active. Another picture I took from the Snake Hills is this lovely blast furnace site. You can see the 2 blast furnaces right over there. And this is owned by the Saint-Gobain, the French Saint-Gobain group. And if you have ever been to France, to Saint-Gobain Pont-à-Mousson, so this is exactly 1-to-1 copy of Pont-à-Mousson. That's literally the same site which you can find in France, just maybe a little bit smaller. And the thing is, while France is getting rid of their blast furnaces at the moment, this plant is still running very strong. Yeah, here you can see it. And while the blast furnaces in France are fired with coke, these are charcoal fired. This brown thing is all charcoal. And while while the green activists are telling you that the charcoal is mined in the Amazonias, that's actually not true. Every plant in Brazil, if you are producing pig iron and having a blast furnace, has to be its own forest. And they are planting eucalyptus there and literally planting every day, chopping every day, and turning it into charcoal every day. So very sustainable method, which is unfortunately impossible to implement in Europe because we have completely different climate. The eucalyptus tree takes something like 5 years to be grown enough for charcoal processing. Yeah, that's a picture from the blast furnace cast house and their hot metal mixer. Pardon my voice, I'm still really not feeling okay. Another plant which is state of the art in Brazil is this one in Jeceaba, and that was built by Vallourec, that French-German company which shut down their facilities in Germany last year because of very expensive environmental permits and energies. So they built their new plant in Brazil and doing exactly the same tubes as they used to do in Mülheim in Germany. This is their blast furnace built by Paul Wurst company in 2021. And their electric steam mill. They don't have the converter shop. They are pouring the pig iron straight to the electric arc furnace, which is not very common process. Here we are at Timóteo. Timóteo is in the state of Minas Gerais, let's say 6 hours drive from Belo Horizonte to the east. And in Timóteo, we have Aperam steel mill with 2 charcoal blast furnaces. This is the world's second largest charcoal blast furnace, and this is the world's biggest blast furnace run on charcoal. And they are making stainless steel and plates. This is cast house at the second largest blast furnace and inside the pulpit of their Steckel mill. They don't have the hot strip mill, they have the Steckel process. You are actually, we can discuss this after the lecture. I'm quite interested if there is any Steckel mill in Great Britain, because I'm not aware of any single one. But this is exactly why I came to Brazil. These are the famous mini blast furnaces run on charcoal. There are hundreds, literally hundreds of them. And for example, there is one valley near Belo Horizonte in Matosinhos and Sete Lagoas. And this is the region where you can literally find in one town around 40 mini blast furnaces, and most of them are active. And this is one of them. This is Siderurgica Atlas. This is, for example, Siderurgica Fergubel in Matosinhos. And all of them are active, and all of them are producing pig iron only, which is then transported to Europe. One picture from the cast house. And here we are in Europe. To illustrate how drastically the iron industry or the steel industry is disappearing in Europe, I made this map. Every single orange dot represents one blast furnace site or integrated steel mill, in other words. And this is the situation before the Second World War. This is in 50s, and this is before COVID. I haven't upgraded it yet, but we can see that right now we have few more dots missing. Like Taranto is almost dying, Azovstal is dead, Liberty Ostrava is dead, soon Port Talbot will disappear. So the steel industry is changing rapidly, and that's one of the reasons I am doing this project. So let's take a look at some European sites. One of my most favorite one was situated just south from Brussels in Belgium. That's Forge-Clabec, a very old site dating back to 1905. And this is how it looks back in 2009. And of course, demolition came shortly after. So the big blast furnace was demolished, and so that the old ones. Today, we have only this one on site, which is the last of its kind in the world. That's a bucket charge blast furnace from 1910, listed as a technical monument, but endangered. This is also in Belgium. Part of my project is not only steel mills, but also mines. And this is one of them. I believe you wouldn't judge, but this is a coal mine called Azar Sherat. This is first head frame, first pit, and the second pit. This is for the coal transportation, and this is where the miners were underground. This is so-called the Malakoff Tower. Today, this one is demolished, and this is turning into some administrative center. One more view. This is completely historical view. I'm not sure how visible it is on your screen, but there is one huge building on the horizon and one another here on the left. So if you come here today, everything is gone, the head frame and both buildings. The building on the right is the steel mill Schertal, and the building on the left is the hot strip mill of ArcelorMittal Belgium, all gone. This picture was taken by my friend Harald Finster in the 1990s in Luxembourg, in a city called Belval. This blast furnace, after the shutdown in the 90s, was transported to China, and to my knowledge, it is still there, alive, and the rest was turned into this shopping mall center. So both blast furnaces were saved and incorporated into a new administrative center. Maybe that's the future of Port Talbot very shortly. Another mill in France, a huge mill owned by ArcelorMittal, can be found in Lorraine, in Florange. This is a picture from 2008, but today no more steam is coming out of the smokestacks as the mill is completely dead and undergoing demolition. But still, there are some nice places left in France, and one of them is Framatome Le Creusot. That's the largest forging shop in Europe, and they are making the parts for nuclear reactors. By the way, this is a checkmate forging press from T.S. Pilsen, from a country where I came from. However, the company is not existing anymore. Another beautiful example of all machinery at work is at Châteauneuf in France, and it's the heavy plate mill from 1935 and is still active. That's owned by ArcelorMittal. And this is an iconic shot I made at Carling, close to German border. What we can see here is the coke plant of Carling. I took this picture somewhere around 2010, and if you come here today, this coke plant is completely erased, and even this house is half empty, partly destroyed. So you can see the impact, what happens when you shut down a working and profitable plant. The whole environment just dies. And this picture was strong enough for one of my fellow Czech artists who turned it into this beautiful oil on canvas. Okay, one quick look into Germany. This is Germany's oldest running blast furnace site. That's in Duisburg, and that site is running since 1902. And they are making some special metals in there. That used to be a pig iron plant, but now they are melting some precious metals. And a view inside the cast house. One more shot from Duisburg. That's dumping the slag. And this picture below was an inspiration for an American-based artist, Cory Bonnet, who several years ago he found a storage of old foundry patterns, and he gave them a new life. So he started to paint on them. And this picture of mine was so inspirative for him that he made a whole series of this slag dumping. Oops. This is in Germany as well. That's ThyssenKrupp Bruckhausen plant, and so-called the ugliest blast furnace in the world. That was designed by architect Ernst von Gagne in 2008, and that's the last blast furnace built in Europe. This blast furnace was, this picture was inspiration for a Russian artist, Lukia Murina, who made one acrylic paint from it. Okay, you probably know this. That's your country and famous Port Talbot works. When I meant to be yesterday, but due to my illness, I had to cancel everything. So I hope to see this lovely view once again next month. That's their blast furnace, which will be that's blast furnace number 3, I guess. Actually, I'm not sure, but this one will be shut down later this year. And one of well, that's a historic shot completely today. That's the coke quenching at the Morpha coke plant. As you know, the coke plant was shut down last week as the last working coke plant in Great Britain. So that was the end of long and beautiful coking era in your country. Close to Port Talbot is this very interesting mill called Newport, that's owned by Liberty. It's not active today, but the interesting thing is it's a copy. I'm not sure if you are aware of this story, but there used to be another one from 1950s, but that hot strip mill was transported to Chicago, close to Burns Harbor, and is still operating under Severstal. Or no, sorry, it's NLMK today. And that plant was called Beta Steel. It was a Greek owner who transported the hot strip mill to the United States. That was because of cutting down the capacities of hot rolled products in Europe. So he decided to move it to Chicago. However, that mill in Newport was rebuilt and is still there today. And this is, by the way, the original mill in the United States, which used to be at Newport. You can see it's literally the same, just the SEC Mesta logo is missing because it's just a copy. That's the engine drive and the engine drive in Chicago. See, even this one is completely the same. Pardon me. Okay, that's another set chapter. That's Saint-Gobain Hollowell foundry in your country. And this foundry sadly will be shut down in May or June or something around that. That's part of Saint-Gobain group, and yeah, that's it. I was lucky enough to visit this plant in 2019. So these are the last pictures made there. And this is my favorite topic, the hand mills. From all kinds of steel production, the hand rolling mills are literally my favorite. I love them. I don't know why, but I'm absolutely obsessed by them. This one is the Legg Brothers in the outskirts of Birmingham. Absolutely tremendous thing. And another beautiful hand mill is close to where you are at the moment, and that's the and it's in Sheffield, but I completely complete Bedford Steels. Sorry, Bedford Steels. That's not far from the Sheffield Forge Masters. Very, very old shop. They are still running. They are doing the hollow bars. Very special thing. And another thing in Sheffield is Pro-Roll Company, which was recently moved to another location, but still in Sheffield, and that's their rolling mill. This rolling mill is something over 120 years old, and it's meant to be the oldest running hand mill in Europe. To my knowledge, there is one more hand mill in Sheffield, and that's in Howmet, Ecclesfield. I'm trying to put it on my list for my April visit, but Howmet is very, very difficult to approach. So wish me luck. In Sheffield, we have also this. That's one of the largest extrusion presses in Europe. That's in the Meadow Hall facility owned by Jesus Christ. I'm not really well anymore. I forgot the name of the company. So sorry if there is something, but it will come to my mind shortly. Okay, let's leave the Western world and see some hardcore industry now, which is also one of the most painful topics whenever I'm having lectures these days. So let's take a look at Ukraine. Ukraine is a place of many, many steel mills, coal mines, and iron mines, and the largest iron ore basin is in Kryvyi Rog. Kryvyi Rog is, let's say, the western part of eastern Ukraine. This is still under Ukrainian control, even though there is very often shelling and it's pretty much endangered by the war now. But just take a look at this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 headgears in one image. For me, this is real heaven. To have 11 mines in one photograph. Trust me, you don't get it anywhere in the world today. And if you turn your neck and look at the other side, you have a forest of another head frames up ahead. It's absolutely splendid. I've been there twice, and still this is one of my favorite parts of Ukraine. Yeah, another mine in Kryvyi Rog. Wonderful living there. I wouldn't mind to have a summer house right over there. Yeah, just another Ukrainian flag mine. Another mine. No need to say that all these pits are active. Yeah, this one is pretty brutal. That's Oktoberskaya Schacht, and that's the wildest headgear I've ever seen. And this headgear or this picture was so inspirative for one British artist, Ian Edwards, who made a series of woodcuts from it. So that's one of them. Yeah, and last picture from the Kryvyi Rog mining basin. This is actually still in use. People are living in there. Yeah, and one more picture. Yes, somebody, Fred Starr, raised a hand. So let me see if I can do something about it. Hello, Fred. Do you have something on mind, or that was just by an accident?
It was by accident, but I found it very difficult to get into these plants to take pictures in this country. I don't know how you've managed.
Yeah. That's a good question. Well, I'm surprised too, to be honest. Before the war, usually getting the permission is one of the most difficult parts of my project. That's really the nightmare. That takes months, years even, and that's really bad. It's really difficult. But before the war, Russia, surprisingly, was the easiest country to get permission in. There was just one letter and you can go. And Ukraine was very similar to it. everything what was needed is to have your request translated to Russian or Ukrainian, and it was okay. So yeah, before the war, Ukraine and Russia was really one of the most welcoming countries in the world when it comes to the permissions. But let's talk about it more after the presentation. So anyway, this is where the iron ore is mined, and this is Krivorazhstav, the huge steel mill in Krivoy Rog, where the iron ore is melted. So let's just take a quick look how it looks inside. Ah, here we are. So that's the one of the world's biggest blast furnace in existence. That's blast furnace number 9, and today is shut down. The problem is in Krivoy Rog that they are not getting the coal from Donbass, but they still have the iron. Plus, the plant is completely, well, is very endangered by the shelling. So this blast furnace is shut down for the moment, and hopefully will come back to life very soon. In Krivoy Rog, there was also this lovely open heart furnace. This was a real beast. The capacity of this furnace was 460 tons per one heat. Just imagine that, that's absolutely ridiculous, but it was still active. However, during the COVID, they shut it down and they are using the converters today only. One interesting plant was located in Newcomen, southern from Krivoy Rog, very close to Dnieper River. That's a ferroalloy smelter, and that's the biggest ferroalloy smelter in the world. Used to be, now damaged by the war and not operating at all. Yeah, just one more picture. We can see the slag dumping, and the smelter is right over there. Pardon. Yeah, this is what they are calling the San Francisco of Ukraine. That's Kamyansk, previously called the Dnipro-Dzerzhinsk, and their DMKD steel mill. Today, DMKD is not producing, and that picture was an inspiration for a painting made by Ondřej Caska, which is a Czech artist, and he's doing a Chinese artwork. So this is one of them. One more picture from Dnipropetrovsk. This plant is shut down at the moment as well because of the war and drone attacks. Actually, this is a historical view. That's also Dnipropetrovsk steel mill. But if you come there today, this blast furnace is gone, and this one too. Only one left, and it's not operating. And this picture was a source of inspiration for Italian painter Claudio Cionini. So this is his oil on canvas, but the similar topic was an inspiration for Nikolai Bazunov, who made this exactly the same view on the blast furnaces, and that's it. Oil on canvas, something like 80 to 80 centimeters. Yeah, one more picture on the afternoon shift, and that's it. Here we are in Donbass. I've been to Donbass in 2012, and this is their former mercury plant. And what we can see here is not a pond; it's actually the former mercury. How to call it? Mercury waste dump. And I was there with one guide. And he was Ukrainian, born and raised over there. And he told me with very strong Russian accent, like, don't drink this water or you will be mutant. So I was like, laughing because it sounds like a joke. But when we say goodbye to each other, he shake my hand and he has 6 fingers. 6 fingers. That was absolutely unbelievable. So yeah, he was not lying at all. And this is also called as the second worst ecological disaster in Ukraine, but not really many people are talking about it. That's the Chernobyl is number 1, and this in Gorlovka is number 2. By the way, exactly this is where the front line is marked at the moment. So you can imagine what an ecological disaster is going over there right now. Yeah, that's my favorite mine in Gaeva. That's also Horlivka, heavily damaged, not working today because of the war. But there is a funny story. Well, it's actually not funny at all. Story behind this picture. When I was taking this photograph, I swear I got a feeling I'm the only one at the dump. But in 2015, when the Donbass was occupied by Russians, my fellow guy from Ukraine sent me this article from one propaganda newspapers. And that article is stating some news about the separatists and digging mass graves for Ukraine army. And guess who this gentleman is? Oh yeah, that's me. But I swear I really don't know who took this picture, how this was made of, absolutely no idea. But this is how the disinformations are made. And here we are in Donetsk, the capital of Donbass, and that's the important steel mill, Donetsk style. Very unique design. You have coal mine, coke plant, blast furnaces, steel mill. Everything at once, but not at all is running because the war. One shot inside the open heart shop. And this funny thing, that was the dust catcher or dust filter of the blast furnace. This picture is also one of my most shared pictures all around the internet. And for example, one Slovakian guy even made a tattoo of it. I just don't know what body part is this, he didn't mention. So yeah. And even Futurama fans made a picture of it. And moreover, this crazy building appeared in the Calls of Duty, one of the computer games 3D shooters. And here we are in Mariupol. When there was the assault to Mariupol, all what was reported about Azovstal. But that's not correct. Azovstal is not the only steel mill in Mariupol. There are two of them, Azovstal in the south and MMK on the north. MMK was not that damaged. And this is how it looks back in 1897 when it was founded by Belgian industrialists. And this is how it evolved over the century. So that's MMK in 2015. The ore yard and the casting machine. By the way, this steel mill appeared in one culture event which was held in Mariupol, and that was this one. If you type in Google or in YouTube Mariupol MMK and concert, you will get this beautiful video. There was a series of classical music concerts right in the middle of the production. Very unique, and I can't recall any similar event all around the world. Yeah, that's their plate mill supplied by Czech company Vítkovice. And this is how it ended after the Mariupol assault. Exactly the same hole. Yeah, that's the coil storage. And that's the last picture of MMK I have. And as you can see, it's actually not that bad. That plant is still revivable. And I've heard one story recently that one of the blast furnace in MMK was recently restarted, but hard to say if that was a propaganda or real thing. Anyway, let's take a look at Azovstal. That's Azovstal in the 30s, shortly after the construction. And Azovstal already have been demolished once or seriously destroyed. And that happened at the end of the Second World War. And a large part of the steel mill was completely destructed. But Azovstal raised from the death, and this is how it looked just 3 years after the war. They managed to rebuild everything. And that's the exactly same view in 2015 when I was there. Here we have a picture from the converter shop, the hot metal mixer, and one picture from the plate mill. And this is today an iconic picture. Just noticed the sign. This is the Vítkovice sign, the Czech engineering company. And exactly the same picture, the same perspective taken by one of the captives. See, that's the plate mill. That's the Vítkovice sign. It's absolutely terrible. So today, Azovstal is just ruined and looking for a better future. Yeah, that's the first picture we've seen. Just comparison. Absolutely tremendous. Okay, quick tour to Russia. I have managed to visit Russia, let's say 7 times, and every time it was horrifying. So let's start with this one. That's a small blast furnace plant southern from Moscow, but they don't produce pig iron, they do ferroalloys. And that picture was a source for inspiration for United States-based artist Rondono. That's their pig iron caster. And I was so amazed to see this one active that I overlooked one step and fell right inside the caster and ended up in a Soviet hospital. And I can tell you that was a life-changing experience. So if you have some bucket list plans, please add the visit of Soviet hospitals to it, because that's really a yeah, remarkable experience. Let's move to Ural, where the core of the iron and steel industry of Russia is still situated. The Ural Mountains are stretching from Kazakhstan up to the north, and the main steel mills are, let's say, situated between Serov, that's northern from Yekaterinburg, to the Kazakh border. I have visited, yeah, basically all of them, but let's just make a quick historical detour. This strange guy is Nikita Demidov, and thanks to this one, the Russian, or let's say the emperor's industry blew, because this guy was engineer and made a lot of applications which are still in use today. He was like the founder of Russian steel industry, and this was the first plant he founded. That's in Nizhny Tagil. Today it's a museum. And in Nizhny Tagil is another huge steel mill that's just few blocks away, and that's Evraz, one of the largest beyond the Urals. When I asked the PR lady who was walking me around how large are, how many workers do they have, she just told me, oh, we are pretty small, only 25,000 workers. So that's the small size, that's a small Russian size, to give you an idea. That's a picture from the converter shop. And again, painting by Rondono. One almost forgotten blast furnace site in Siberia, that's Verkhnaya Sinyachicha. That one is already demolished. That's Nizhnaya Salda, that's partly demolished. And here we are in Chelyabinsk. That's Uraltrack Chelyabinsk, their forging shop. And this is where the tractors are made. When I was there, I was walked by the production manager, and I asked him if they are still producing the tanks, because the tractor, the Chelyabinsk plant used to be called the Tankograd, and that was the place where most of the tanks were made during the Second World War. But he just replied me, don't ask these questions. So yeah, so probably he was not really correct. This is a picture of the same assembling hall in the 40s. Yeah, just a quick look to Satka. Satka is my favorite Russian town, very dystopic, very remote. This is Russia in 2018. No electricity, no water, no nothing. But Satka is mainly known for iron production. And here we are, that's the steel mill, well, the iron plant in the end of 19th century. And this is how it looks today. Still active, they have 2 blast furnaces. Here we are, the general overview, and they are making ferroalloys and ferromanganese there. One quick picture inside. And again, this was the source of inspiration for Nikita Isayev from Newcomen, Russian town in Siberia. He made this beautiful painting in the middle. And one slag dumping, Russian style slag dumping. No granulation, nothing, just pour it out and that's it. And that's my last shot from Russia. And one of the most important parts of Ural steelmaking, that's Serov. And this plant is still active. This, what you can see here, are charging elevators to the blast furnaces. And this is how it looks in 1888. So once again, it's 2017 and 1888, literally nothing changed, nothing. And one picture from the inside. There used to be 9 blast furnaces in a row. Today, only 2 are active. And here we are slowly at the end of our presentation. So let's take a quick look at Oceania. I was to Australia and New Zealand last year and got a chance to document every single steel mill there. The only one missing is this one, that's in New Caledonia, that's a nickel smelter, and unfortunately it's shutting down today. So that's a bit pitiful, I didn't make it. Anyway, let's take a look. What's beautiful is to be found in Australia. The Australia steel industry started in 1889 in a place in Blue Mountain called the completely forgot the name now. Sorry. No, I can't recall now. We can discuss it afterwards. So this is how the site looked back in end of 19th century, and this is what has left until today. It's so poor, I didn't even go there. I focused on the living industry. And from this plant, the steel production, because this plant was situated north from Sydney, far away from the coast. And the steel industry moved to Port Kembla, and this is their first blast furnace, which was put into operation in 1922. So this is how it looks in 1922, and here we are in 2023. See these hot blast stoves? So these are from the first blast furnace, but as you can see, the site largely expanded. And this is how it looks now. 2 blast furnaces, one is alive, one is idled. They have this beautiful sintering plant. They don't have to import iron ore because of the rich iron in Australia. Their coke plant, still active, unlikely to port Talbot. And their blast furnace cast house. This is literally the cleanest blast furnace cast house I have ever seen in my life. Now we are in Sydney, and in Sydney, not many of you probably know, there is a steel mill just on the outskirts of Sydney called Rooty Hill, and this belongs to Infrabuild, the same holding as the Liberty Steel holding is. That's their scrapyard, the electric arc furnace, the continuous caster, state-of-the-art facility built in 1991. Yeah, and that's me at the Opera House. But I didn't came all the way to see this famous thing. I came here to see this beautiful bridge. I hope there it is. And this bridge is the Port Harbor Bridge. And rumor has it that the nails and screws inside the bridge were made in my country in Kladno steel mill, which is not active anymore. So yeah, that's for the sightseeing. And after Sydney, I moved to Melbourne, and in Melbourne, there's another steel mill called the Laverton. They have the electric arc furnace and this beautiful rod mill. And this rod mill is very important, interesting, because it was transported from one mill in the United States, from J&L Steel in Johnstown in the 90s. So this mill is, even though the Melbourne steel mill was built in the 80s, this mill, this rod mill, came from the 1920s. So it's a 100 years old mill, still in operation in Melbourne. And this is the most important part of Whyalla, of the Australia and my whole trip. This is why I came all the way to the other side of planet to visit and witness the beauty of Whyalla steel mill, because this steel mill, as you probably know, belongs to the Liberty Holding, and it's literally on the edge now. They shut down the coke plant. Oh, look at this beautifulness. It's impossible to get a view like this in Europe anymore. It's like a real hardcore industry. And their coke plant was shut down just recently last year, and now they are struggling with the blast furnace. There are some rumors about hydrogen plant, but who knows? Anyway, when I was approaching the plant by the plane, I got this message from the head of communications of Liberty Australia, and it was stating that for the coke plant visit, I need to be clean shaven, as it's a requirement for all of their staff. So I was literally in shock. But you know, you are on the other side of the planet, and you have this one single chance. So, yeah, I hold a deep breath and made it. So I completely shaved myself for the first time in my life. My wife have never seen me shaven. All three kids have never seen me clean shaven. But yeah, as I told you in the beginning, I love the steel industry and I'm willing to sacrifice almost everything. So this is how I looked, completely humiliated after the terrible thing. And I visited the Whyalla steel mill. This is it. This is their blast furnace and the ore yard, the coke plant, which is not active anymore. Look at how beautiful it is. Whyalla coke making, no steam now, no smoke, nothing. It's just dead. Yeah, one of the last coke push. Now you can see the last coke push in Port Talbot was way more civilized, no black clouds. Their blast furnace. This is how it looks inside, actually very clean. Their converter shop, that's 240 ton LD converter, and their universal mill. And when I was to Australia, I've got the chance and grabbed a plane to New Zealand, because I learned that there are 2 steel mills in New Zealand. When I entered New Zealand border check, the lady on the airport asked me, you know, there is this traditional interview with the customs. She asked me why I'm staying for 2 days on New Zealand only. So I told her that you have 2 steel mills only. I was really honest, and that deserved me some special interrogation after that. So yeah, that was a bit naughty, but yeah, what else to do in New Zealand? So basically, this is where it is. I landed in Auckland, and one steel mill is right in Auckland. That's the Pacific Steel, and the second one here is in Glenbrook. So that's all I've seen from New Zealand, and then I left back home. But like, take a quick look on the Pacific Steel. That's a steel mill from the 60s. They used to have a steel shop, but today they are running only this beautiful old rolling mill. In the afternoon, I had some time, so instead of sightseeing, I have visited the Waikato North Head ore mine, and it's very, very special thing. They are mining and they have an open cast mine and are mining the iron sand, and that's this one. This is it, iron sand. That happened like 4 million years ago when there was an eruption, and that eruption, the lava hit the ocean, and then that's how the titanomagnetite was born. And there were several methods how to use this very potential material in the past, but finally in the 80s, I guess, they managed to find a way, and they built Glenbrook steel mill. That was my final goal of this whole Oceania quest, and it was worth it. So Glenbrook steel mill has very special process. They first got the iron sand to these hybrid furnaces, shaft furnaces, where they dry it. You can see it. Yeah, this is where you get the iron sand from the mine. There you can see the hybrid furnaces to dry the thing. Then you have the lime kilns to roast the material. Then it goes to electric furnace when you melt it. And when you melt it, you transport the molten metal to the converter shop. They have one converter, and they are making very high quality steel from it. And all they have is their hot strip mills. They don't supply the automotive industry. All coils and all rolled materials goes to the metal roofs, yeah, the roofings and something like that. And finally, the slag dumping. So that's the only slag dumping in New Zealand, and the only thing you should see at New Zealand, nothing else. Ladies and gentlemen, and that's all. Thank you for surviving this presentation until the very end, and I'm very much open for your questions or whatever. So yeah, I'm really glad my voice made it, and I'm here for you. So that's it. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Viktor,
You're
for that
welcome.
wonderful presentation with the fantastic images. We have probably got around 15 minutes for questions if you think your voice will hold up to
Awesome.
it. So I'll put that out to the audience. Hands up if you've got a question. Gentleman at the front here.
My name's Andrew Simpson. I used to work at British Steel Corporation, Bilston Works, and I have a record of the works as a website, which you might be interested to see, and other people here, britishsteelbilston.com. And that had an integrated plant blast furnace, open hearth.
Oh,
I was
nice.
a trainee at the works for a year in the blast furnace office. And I took some pictures, and I've gathered a lot of documents from there. So I welcome anybody to check out that website, and yourself as well, Viktor. But I should say, by the way, it was a very, very interesting presentation. I love all the pictures and brought back a lot of memories for me, although I haven't visited any of the works you've been to, but it certainly brought them real to me. One question I have is in Germany, because I've spent my life in steel, and I visited Völklingen.
Völklingen, yeah.
Yes, there's a historic site there with preserved blast furnaces overlooking the town. I don't think it's so popular with the people who live there, but however, it's very evocative of the time. So again, I'd like to thank you from my side. And just one minor point, and somebody else might correct me on this. There's a lot of talk about the blast furnace not being a green process with all the dirt going out into the atmosphere. But all I can say is, well, the blast furnace is an enclosed process. All the gas is taken off the top. Things are recycled. So I'm not quite sure why it has such a bad name. But anyway, that's just my take on it. But once again, thank you very much, Viktor, and I'll hand you back to the rest of the audience. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any more questions? We have a second.
Just as a guy with a beard, why did you have to shave the beard off? Was it some kind of thing to do with putting on a mask or something? What was the reason? That's all.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. Actually, I had to shave myself because of safety reason to, to have a good, uh, well, to have my gas mask on it. That was my thought. So I completely shaved, but in the end, they gave me a damn respirator like in the COVID days, nothing very special. So I got a little bit of feeling that I shaved myself just for nothing. Yeah, but it was meant to be for the safety reason to hold to stick well.
One sec.
Wonderful pictures, Victor. Half the world's steel is currently made in China. Do you have any plans to go to China? Or have you been already?
To be honest, I'm trying to get a permission from any single Chinese steel mill since 2010, and it's absolutely impossible. Impossible. I have even tried it with my government help, with my embassy help, nothing. So after they stole all our technologies, they just don't let anybody in. It's ridiculous. Really, zero chance in China.
Do we have anyone else want questions? Quinn?
I was delighted to hear about Ostrava. As a student, believe it or not, in 1950, I'm not sure where, exactly when, I spent a summer working in Nova Huč, Klementa Gottwaldler,
Oh, really?
in Ostrava. That was quite a time. And I just wonder well, there's so many changes I know in the ownership of the steel plant there. But you didn't mention a lot about the well, of Ostrava and the steel industry then, and the fate of those of the plants. I wonder if you could just add a little bit.
Yeah, Ostrava is a very sad story. It's owned by Liberty Steel Group at the moment, and there were huge plans to build a hydrogen or hybrid furnaces on the ground to replace the blast furnace and the tandem furnace process. However, the situation today is that the whole plant is completely dead because they run out of raw material, and they run out of environmental permissions as well, because these environmental permits were transferred to their plant in Romania, in Galați. So today there are around 10,000 people, 10,000 workers at risk, and nobody really knows what the future will bring. So Ostrava is very, very uncertain thing. Besides Nova Huť, there used to be the Vítkovice steel mill. This is completely demolished at the moment. So Nova Huť was the last steelmaking facility in Ostrava, dead today. So that's it.
Yeah, Victor, I'd like to echo a lot of the sentiments. Really interesting presentation.
Thank you.
I might be polite to say, in comparison to most of the room, I'm fairly young. So right at the start of my industrial career. Everything's driven by economics. So with sort of the might of Ukrainian iron making and steel making, and a lot of those you said were in suspended animation at the moment, where has that work gone throughout the rest of the world?
That's a good question. And actually, to be honest with you, I was really hoping that at least, well, it's terrible to say, but at least one benefit of this crazy war will be a rehabilitation of the European steel industry. But that didn't happen. It's not happening, and I don't know why. I really absolutely have no idea what went wrong. but here we have the chance to boost our steel industry, to revive all these plants, but none of them is happening. So maybe it's just part of bigger plant. I can't see. It's very sad and very disturbing.
Oh, I've got one more question at the back.
Just to make a quick comment, Krivoy Rog, I have been there myself. The ore mines at Krivoy Rog supplied not only the local industry, but steel plants in nearly every East European country, one in Hungary, one in Slovakia, etc. Do they still get most of their ore from Krivoy Rog?
They do. They do. For example, even several European-based companies have their own open casts ore mines in Krivoy Rog, so they still are supplying the iron ore. It's not that much as before the war, but they are still supplying. Problem is with the coal from Donbass, which was literally cut off. And if you don't mind, here we have a raised hand by Mr. Fred Starr. So let me just, yeah, can you?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. No, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, good. Thank you.
Right. Well, that was wonderful. Completely unexpected.
Thank
It
you.
took me back to my early days in the steel industry when it was all open hearth plants. I wish you'd been around then when it was separate ingot pouring, in which I ended up with a splash of steel in my shoe. But I think what will surprise most of us is how the steel industry in Western Europe has been devastated. We think just about this country, but it's literally Europe-wide to a very large extent. It's all gone to places like India and China, but you've got no plans to go to India, apparently.
Well, India is similar story as to China, but a little bit different. Believe me or not, I have contacted every single steel mill in India, but never got a single reply. I even try with the help of embassy, but the problem is they don't understand why a white guy would visit a thing like an Indian steel mill. They don't get it. So yeah, that's the problem.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much for your questions. I'll just got one more hand raised online. I think it'll be the last one. Got Quentin. I'll just ask him to. Quentin, if you unmute yourself, you can talk.
Yeah, can you hear me now? Can you hear me?
Oh, hello.
Hello. It was a great lecture. I really enjoyed it. I'm a Pittsburgher and lived through those great furnace days. And I don't think people appreciate the beauty. There were 25 blast furnaces in Pittsburgh when I was a kid. And it was just amazing, the beauty of it. People from the outside couldn't understand how could you live in such a dirty city and be so proud of it. But Pittsburghers were very proud of it. The night was a wonderful scene,
I believe that.
and it was a very sad time in 1982 when almost all those blast furnaces closed. But thank you. That's all I want to say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Pittsburgh was a lovely town. Used to be.
Well, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for your questions. I'd like to hand over to Bob Riddleston to do the vote of thanks.
Thank you too, and see you hopefully next time in person in Sheffield.
Victor, thank you very much for an excellent presentation. I noticed your pictures are of a very high standard, and they seem to have cleaned up the casting floors and the art furnaces before you came, because I've never seen anything so clean in my life. But they obviously wanted to impress you. You talked about being fascinated by the sounds of the steel industry. A lot of people in this room have worked in the steel industry and been fascinated by those sounds. In fact, transfixed, because if it went quiet, you knew you were in trouble. They say beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and you've certainly got a different eye to a lot of people. But I congratulate you for what you're doing. It's going to be an archive, of a historical archive, as some of it already is. And I'm sure everybody in the room has been fascinated by what you've shown us. And I'd like them to show their appreciation for something that is very unique and you should be very proud of. Thank you.